Elliott Smith's self-titled record was released on July 21st, 1995. And I've been doing a series on albums that came out in 1995. They're now turning 30 years old. And tonight, on this very special episode of Late Listening, this late night episode, I hope you'll join me as I talk about this record. I almost didn't want to do a video on this album because of how kind of legendary this is, and it's sort of been picked over and analyzed and reanalyzed millions of times. But I'm just going to give my perspective on it and kind of do my little point of view. So I hope you'll join me for my analysis. Alright, even though this album didn't get a lot of press or didn't sell a lot of records at the time, this album has gone on to become quite legendary. And of course, Elliott Smith's entire catalog now is something that a lot of people are discovering and even rediscovering. One of the things that not a lot of people talk about is that Elliott Smith was actually still in the band Heatmiser when this album was being recorded. And they were working toward their 1996 record, Mike City Sons, which would be their final album. And actually, they would break up pretty much while they were recording that record. Around the time Heatmiser's last record came out, Neil and I were both on unemployment. That would be Neil Gust, the singer-guitarist of Heatmiser and Elliott's longtime friend. Neil and I were both on unemployment, which we thought of as an arts grant, he hoarsely laughs. But I was also doing odd jobs around Portland, like spreading gravel and transplanting bamboo trees. Elliott Smith was a little bit worried about whether he could continue his sort of solo career that had begun with his debut, Roman Candle. Roman Candle, I actually don't consider Roman Candle really so much a debut as just a collection of demos. It's kind of a haphazard collection. Of course, it's amazing, but it is what it is. This record, of course, he knew that this would come out and be really something that people would listen to, and so unlike the first one that was sort of recorded on 4-track, just straight to cassette, this one actually had, he used a small studio in Portland, Oregon. Around this time also, Elliott befriended the singer-songwriter Mary Lou Lord, whose boyfriend was actually Slim Moon from Kill Rock Stars, the Kill Rock Stars label. And that was kind of a strange fit, but in retrospect, it kind of makes sense because Elliott was doing this kind of very different kind of music, and so he was on a very different kind of record label. Interestingly enough, actually, Slim Moon was trying to get Elliott onto K Records, Calvin Johnson's record label that actually Kurt Cobain also dreamed of getting signed there. And Slim Moon was acting as a middleman, but he never heard back from Calvin Johnson, and so they decided to release Needle in the Hay as a 7-inch. And the rest is history. In 2015, Mary Lou Lord did an interview with Consequence of Sound, where she talked about hearing Needle in the Hay for the first time. I was so impressed with the sound. It was lo-fi, but you could tell there was a lot of thought that went into the texture of the way these songs were sounding. I knew there was something special in the production, and the sonic capability of this very primitive way of recording. It was staggering. Certainly one of the beauties of this album is the rawness. You can hear the tape hiss, you can hear his fingers on the strings. The album's recording was split between drummer of Heatmiser, Tony Lash, who was actually Elliott's childhood friend, and they played in not only Heatmiser, but also a band called Stranger Than Fiction. And some of it was recorded in local Portland audio engineer Leslie Uppinghouse's house. When I was doing a video on PJ Harvey's To Bring You My Love, I talked about how Elliott Smith's self-titled record kind of reminds me of like Van Morrison's Astral Weeks, or some of those records where you have all of these like interconnected short stories in a way, and everything feels like it's not a concept album, but it's, the narrator or the characters are kind of recurring, and it's all set in the same area. And I really feel like this record has such a story inside of it. Elliott himself, speaking during an interview for EXO, said that it doesn't get much darker than the self-titled record. Well, Up was the only way to go from that self-titled record I made. I mean, I personally can't get more dark than that. I want to write about as many things as possible, and I don't try to write about anything in particular, but if there was one kind of song I wish I could write, it would be more like I Second That Emotion by Smokey Robinson than like some really dark, depressing song. It's also like I have to do what seems new to me. even if it doesn't seem new to other people. That's what I have to do in order to not get bored and stagnate and stuck. To me, this record is not a Midnight Black portrait of a broken soul. It's not really a downward spiral. It's basically very specific to Portland, Oregon, and the Portland, Oregon of the 1990s in the Pacific Northwest, and even little snippets of the South or New York, if you take that interpretation. This album is pure punk rock, done in a very unique way, acoustic and intimate, quiet yet intense. And the narrator depicts what's familiar to him, struggling in the bohemian lifestyle. As I mentioned before, Elliott was taking part-time jobs in addition to making solo music and playing in a band. It's kind of a romantic lifestyle, taking drugs, looking for drugs, getting fucked up and fucking around, and watching all of the other fuck-ups around him. It's dark because it's an underground world. It's visceral. It's real. Shadows cling to the narrator and the characters, and they cling to the listener long after the record's over. The vocal delivery, the lyrics, even the tape hiss, and the sort of sometimes out-of-tune guitars, it all adds up to a masterpiece. Even the empty space and sort of the sound of the room, and the fact that it sounds like Elliott is sitting right there with you, telling you these stories. It's just so unlike anything else, especially back then. The cover of what looks like people falling off a building was actually a photograph of the Museum of Art in Prague. This was actually a sculpture that was outside the art museum. And if you look at the original photograph, you can actually see the wires that are holding up the statues. And Elliott Xeroxed it and made it blue, and he sort of designed the cover himself. All right, I want to talk about the tracks now. But one thing that I want to say before I get into this is, if you've never heard these songs before, or if you've never heard this album before, if you're new to this album, I would encourage you to spend some time with this record and listen to it very carefully and listen to it repeatedly. And don't go online immediately and try to figure out what these songs mean. I think each of these songs is open to many interpretations, and I would encourage you to find your own meaning and find your own impressions and just imagine before you go out there and try to figure out, like, what is it really about? Because Elliott didn't really talk about his songs much, and there's a lot of different speculation about what these songs might mean, and I think that they're designed that way. They're not supposed to be easy puzzles to solve. It's supposed to be kind of universal. It's supposed to be metaphors that you can take away many different sides from, and some people see black darkness, and some people see a bit of light cracking through. So yeah, with that in mind, let's proceed. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this, track 1, Needle in the Hay, was a 7-inch. It was the only single from this record, actually. Coming Up Roses was supposed to be a single, but didn't happen. I know that saying what I'm about to say is blasphemy, but I actually don't like Needle in the Hay as much as I like other songs on this record. I like it. I think it's pretty good, pretty damn good. But it's not one of my favorite Elliott Smith songs. And I feel like this song is kind of weird, and it's a good album opener, but it's not really one that I go back to that often. Let me explain. I think it's mainly the haystack, the needle in the haystack metaphor doesn't really work for me. I understand that he's using that cliche to talk about drugs, to talk about needles, intravenous drugs, but it just seems a bit cliche to me, the haystack charm around your neck. And I really like the lyrics in the verses, but that the needle in the hay chorus just, I don't know. And also the melody of the chorus, it doesn't really grab me the way that most other Elliott Smith songs do. I love the lyrics about, your hand on his arm. It's like already pulling him through or pushing him through. The dependency is already there from the very first line. I love the junkie trying to cash some check. The idiot kid, the character of the idiot kid who will come back in many of these songs, either named or unnamed. There's the idiot kid, and then there's the other one who's wearing the idiot kid's clothes as a reaction. There's some kind of a deep dependency going on there. Also addiction. I do love the line, sometimes they just get caught in the eye, you're pulling him through. I think in terms of that metaphor, the needle in the hay, the eye of the needle, I think that's really well done. But I still don't really like the metaphor. Is he being pulled deeper into addiction? Are you pulling him through to help him get clean? Are you supporting him? There's so many interpretations there in just such a simple line. I like the reference to Sixth and Powell, hunting for drugs, dead sweat in my teeth. Gonna walk, walk, walk 4 more blocks plus the one in my brain. It's junky truth right there, can't stand it. These lyrics are as understated as the guitar playing, and they're just as complex and deceptively simple seeming. I also like the way that this album opens with that weirdly dissonant guitar. The chords are so strange. It's not really very catchy. It's kind of unsettling. And then his whispery, kind of half-hoarse vocals come in. It sets a tone for the record, but it's such an uncomfortable tone at the same time. The first time I heard this, I had already heard EXO and Either Or. I was going backwards. And I was like, this is a weird song, but I guess it was the part where he says, wanna be proud that I'm getting good marks. And then he does that hiss. And I just thought, I don't know why he hisses there. It's like supposed to be creepy. It's like, is he putting out a cigarette? Like, do stepdads putting a cigarette out on your arm? Or like, it's the sound of, cooking in the spoon, something. I don't know why, but even as a teen, when I heard that, I thought that's really cheesy. That's really kind of too much. And just that line itself is just so cheesy. It's wordplay, but it's like, I don't know, it's so over the top, I guess. That's one of the reasons why I always kind of feel like, Needle in the Hay. Like, it's pretty damn good, but I don't know. Tell me what you think about that song. Track 2, Christian Brothers. This song was actually demoed as a Heatmiser song. It was supposed to be, I think, a Heatmiser song. Elliott would write songs. He was writing just tons of songs at this time, but quite a few of his songs were potential Heatmiser songs. I love the intro that just builds and builds and builds, and then it becomes that weird, like, rhythmic kind of like galloping. I also like how the tape hiss kind of blends with the cymbal in the background. Like, it's like the tape hiss and the cymbal are kind of like one sound. Elliott Smith, of course, famously had bad dreams. He had an abusive stepfather and all that stuff. I'm not going to talk about that. But Christian Brothers is a kind of cheap brandy. And people have speculated that this song is about maybe getting drunk in order to stand up to his stepfather or something like that. But I actually have a little different take on this song. He talks about how Christian Brothers can't help him get over. And get over is actually a heroin term. It's a slang about, you have to use. The addict needs to get over. There's also get well, but you could say, she needs to get over every day, or she needs to get well. And so I actually think this song is a bit darker and even creepier than some people realize. And I don't even think Christian Brothers is meant to be just the alcohol. I think that in relation to the boss, he talks about, I've seen the boss blink on and off, which, there's easily like 100 interpretations of what that might mean. But the fact that he puts the fake concern in there, you think I want to shake your motherfucking hand. It's, to me, that's a jab at those Christians, who are trying to be good Samaritans and trying to look like they're good Samaritans. Elliott Smith, in many, many songs, goes back to that fake sincerity. He really is bothered by the fake empathy, the fake sympathy. And I feel like Christian Brothers really has that, he uses that word much more than just the brand of alcohol. It's the concept, the metaphor, the wordplay. And one of the reasons I thought of heroin, not just because this album is full of like heroin references, but he says, come here by me, I want you here. It feels so desperate, the need is so strong. It's more than just alcohol. It's more than just, needing to get drunk. You don't need to get drunk. I mean, sure, but not in that way. Also, I think one of the absolute genius lines of this too is at the end. He says, "Nightmares become me. It's so fucking clear." Nightmares become me. He wears nightmares well. He looks haunted. He looks raggedy. But also, nightmares become me. So the bad dream fucker is eating him away. Nightmares become me. It's so fucking clear. All he's seeing is a nightmare world. And then the clearness also harkens back to the heroin addiction. To go clear, you want to get sober, you want to get clean. But he's clear in the nightmare. So reality is a nightmare, or he's lost. He's lost inside of it. It's pretty damn dark. Track 3, Clementine. Clementine has one of the greatest opening lines, one of the greatest lines, really, from any song ever, which is, "Waking you up to close the bar. The street's wet, you can tell by the sound of the cars." Oh, that is an absolutely perfect line. I mean, it's like the beginning to a novel or a short story or something. It's like, here's your atmosphere and your character sketch all in like this brief. It's just masterfully done. Referencing the old folk song, Clementine. Obviously, the narrator is regretting this broken relationship. Of course, in the original, the old folk song Clementine, "You are lost and gone forever. Dreadful sorry, Clementine." And that almost sounds like something that would be in an Elliott Smith song, I also really like the line, "Drank yourself into slow-mo, made an angel in the snow. Anything to pass the time, keep that song out of your mind." Yeah, drink yourself into slow-mo. There's another song on New Moon, "The Angel in the Snow." Yeah, track 1, disc 1, "Angel in the Snow." And sometimes I wonder, like, Elliott was writing all of these songs so quickly and all at the same time, and that's why I feel like this album is kind of like a collection of short stories, because I feel like he's just riffing on this world and these characters. They all fit together in my mind in kind of a perfectly imperfect way. This song also has such a drunken feeling, and the guitar kind of is out of tune. He was playing a guitar that really wouldn't stay in tune. It was like an Italian Vox guitar. And I feel like the rhythm of the song kind of sways so drunkenly, and that weird guitar and the kind of dissonance of the whole thing. It really creates such a great atmosphere, like, to support those lyrics. You can really feel the queasiness of the narrator, and just the sad regret. It really is kind of an understated masterpiece of Elliott's catalog. I don't hear a lot of people talk about Clementine, but I think it's a really cool song, and the really weird vocal melody that stays in your head long after. All right, track 4, Southern Belle. This song, I feel like, belonged on Roman Candle, because the imagery and the way that it's put together, it just feels more like the songs that he was writing at this time. Also, the weird guitar that's like in between the verses, where it like kind of goes all over the place. I feel like he did a lot more of that like crazy, tricky guitar on Roman Candle, and a little bit on this one. But then as he moved into Either Or and beyond, he kind of calmed that down and started adding other instruments. And I think it's also interesting that this song follows Clementine, because it flashes back to probably the Texas of Elliott Smith's youth, back when he was Stephen Paul Smith. And, probably about his mom and his abusive stepdad. But it's got some of the greatest lines. Again, Elliott Smith, just a master lyricist. "I don't want to walk around breathing the air you breathe, stuck in this southern town where all you can do is grit your teeth." Whew. Methamphetamine, anyone? Speed, cocaine. Yeah, I grew up in a little tiny desert town out in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't in the South, but when I heard that line for the first time, I got chills, and I was like, that's what it is. That's what it is. You don't want to walk around. There's nothing to do. You just feel angry and frustrated, and you're probably taking drugs to just, have some kind of stimulation, some kind of culture, I guess. I don't know. All you can do is grit your teeth and escape to Portland, Oregon when you're 14 years old. The beginning of the song, the way that the guitar is like those just a couple notes, and it's just, it like hangs there. It really feels kind of menacing, and you know that something creepy is coming. It builds to that like angry catharsis too, where he's almost shouting. And even though this song is weirdly specific, but I feel like that anger and that catharsis is pretty universal, especially if you're a teen. All right, track 5, Single File. The return of the idiot kid from Needle in the Hay. They're in detox now with the paper cup and the bitter pills, but it's not going to last. Like a dying shooting star, they're standing in line, and he looks at the idiot kid, and all he can see is that he's waiting for something. He's completely empty. He's going to relapse again. I'm not sure when he says, there's a price you'll pay for trying hard to become whatever they are and saying whatever they say. I'm not sure if that means that the idiot kid wants to be a druggie, a junkie, or if maybe, because I think this is a detox image, maybe he's trying to get clean, and he's trying to be like in normal society. Obey, single file, march in line. Of course, it can be taken either way, but I think that's kind of interesting. Also, I always thought that the line, you're a murder mile, your arm's got a death in it. I always thought that line was about the idiot kid is a dealer, or has helped someone overdose before. I don't think that the idiot kid is such a complete idiot. He's acting dumb, because that's what you've come to expect. But the narrator knows that actually there's death on his hands. Also, Neil Gust from Heatmiser, Elliott Smith's co-vocalist and co-songwriter. Neil Gust plays electric guitar on the song. The really weird kind of cool, like tremolo guitar. Gives it kind of a whimsical element that's missing from other songs on this album, and kind of makes it stand out. Sounds very unique. All right, track 6, Coming Up Roses. Yeah, this song, as I mentioned earlier, was supposed to be the single. And I think you can kind of tell, like, they put that organ in there, and the organ sounds weird because I guess it was like a really strange instrument, and it had no volume control. It had like no nuance at all. They just plugged it directly into the amp. And there was no sustain pedal, so you had to just hold down the keys, which is why at the very end of the song you can hear it like stop and then start again. And the organ makes it kind of feel psychedelic, or kind of like almost like 1960s in a way. And then the twangy guitar comes in for the solo, and that's Elliott Smith, but it's a really unique guitar part as well. I like that this song has more like poetic lyrics that are not so directly like realistic, or it's kind of more impressionistic and more surreal. Like, I love the fact that he says, I'm a junkyard full of false starts, and I don't need your permission to bury my love under this bare light bulb. You can interpret that in a lot of different ways. That kind of feels like what he would do on Figure 8, where he just picks out these like striking images. And by those later records, the lyrics are a bit different, and in my opinion a little bit worse, because they're not as concrete, and I really like his concrete storytelling. That one line in here just hits me like a punch every time. These things that you tell yourself, they'll kill you in time. It's like, I mean, anyone can relate to that. Like, that's a hard-hitting line right there. Also, I can't help but think, like, Coming Up Roses coming after Single File. He sings about the cold white brother alive in your veins, or alive in your blood. I feel like, in the last song he was talking about your arm's got a death in it. And there's the Christian brother, there's the cold white brother, there's in your blood, your arm's got a death in it. These things don't exactly fit together, but sort of in a subconscious level, they kind of echo each other. And I find that to be really interesting. Also, it seems like the roses, everything's coming up roses. Could they be roses that you would give to your love, or could they be turned into funeral flowers? Of course, in the city of roses, Portland, Oregon, there are rose gardens and roses pretty much everywhere. It's a beautiful image, but it's also, totally open to interpretation. All right, track 7, Satellite. maybe my favorite song on this record, one of my favorite Elliott Smith songs of all time. This song is fucking amazing. The guitar, the way that he strums that absolutely gorgeous, insanely complicated, yet just insanely beautiful guitar. The lyrics of this song, the way that he sings, this song is just an absolute masterpiece. I feel like the guitar like conjures the witching hour, and his vocals are so soft and so stretched out, and it's just achingly beautiful. As I see it, the narrator and the idiot kid are strung out in the middle of the night. You know, you're a question mark coming after people you watched collide. You're a question mark, you idiot kid. You have no definition. You know, all you do is wait for your next hit. Coming after people you watched collide. What does that mean? People who were, you know, in a violent relationship of some kind, or people who were maybe doing a drug deal. Human beings who are fickle as the moon. And in single file, you know, he says, here in line where the stupid shit collides. Again, here's the people you saw collide. So, you know, maybe the people you met in detox are now relapsing, and you need to score again. Also, the ice in your veins somehow recalls the coming up roses, you know, cold white brother alive in your blood. And the last lines of this song never fail to give me chills. A burned out world, you know, staying up all night, the satellite. It's a junky dream, lonely as the moon. All right, track 8, Alphabet Town. This one, I'm going to give you a different kind of interpretation than maybe you've heard before, but bear with me. So this song begins with that weird harmonica that's kind of recalling Clementine in a way. I felt like the twanginess kind of comes back just a little bit. And I think most people have interpreted this song as being about Alphabet City, which is a neighborhood in New York, which, especially back then in the 90s, was an area where people would deal drugs like openly, and it was a really kind of a wicked part of town. It's easy to score. It's easy to, you know, any kind of poison that you wish for can be found quite easily in Alphabet City. But for me, spending a lot of time in Portland, Oregon, which I have, I feel like there's the Alphabet District, which is the historical district of Portland. A lot of the old houses and the Victorian architecture and the kind of upscale shops and things like that. And you can look at this song in two ways or more, which is, I feel like on the one hand, you know, the narrator and Constantina may be trying to score drugs in Alphabet City in New York. Or Constantina seems like a kind of an upper class name or an upper class girl. She seems foreign. Maybe she's right at home in the Alphabet District of Portland, and it's the narrator who can't keep up and is making a fool of himself there. So I'd like to offer that interpretation just for shits and giggles. Constantina feels right at home amongst the riffraff, or she feels at home amongst the upper class, you know, the luxury shops. But regardless, you threw up whatever she shot down. You're already wrong. You probably can't even pronounce her name correctly. You seem to be just completely out of your element. Maybe now you're the idiot kid. So if we follow this line of thinking, in verse 3 he says, I know what you are, I just don't mind. What exactly does that mean? Who is speaking there? He's talking to Constantina in New York and saying, you know, I know you're a whore, I know you're a druggie, but I don't care. Or she's saying it to him, maybe. Or, you know, in Portland, maybe she wants to go out, she wants to see the city, and she knows that he's kind of a piece of shit, but she doesn't really care, because after all, you know, she just wants to go out and have fun. He knows she's an upper class bitch and he doesn't care because, you know, he has her hand on his arm and that means everything to him. This is also something that I found very interesting about this song was the way that Elliott Smith repeats these lines, almost in a nervous kind of obsessive kind of way. Her hand on your arm, she put her hand on your arm. You're wrong. She won't say you're wrong. She knows you're wrong. These things are like almost like a nervous tendency of like the thoughts that are running through your head when you're in an uncomfortable situation. and he wants to be with Constantina, I think, regardless of whether he's in New York or Portland, but he kind of can't handle it, and he's kind of losing his shit. Yeah, I really like the way that just those simple lines repeated can add a lot to who this character is. And the fact that this song is also all in the third person almost makes me feel like the narrator is experiencing this, but it's like he's kind of removed through like a veil of chemicals or something like that. No direct emotion is depicted, and yet you can feel such uncomfortable kind of unraveling, the unraveling mental state through these repeated lines. All right, track 9, St. Ides Heaven. This track actually contains backing vocals by Rebecca Gates from the Spinanes. Very beautiful vocal harmonies that she adds subtly in the background to Elliott Smith's voice. This song, I almost can't even talk about this song. This song used to be my theme song because I was the narrator of this song. Although I never drank St. Ides. That shit's awful. Yeah, I almost can't even talk about this song. I love it so much. Everything is exactly right when I walk around here drunk every night. That's some Elliott Smith humor for you right there. It's like rock bottom humor, rock bottom black humor. What a great contradiction that is, and what a great denial too. And also, high on amphetamines, the moon is a light bulb breaking. What a great, like, explicit, concrete image, immediately undercut with the poetic feeling. And that is actually the feeling of how it feels to be on amphetamines. Take that as you want, but yeah, the moon is a light bulb breaking. Again, he doesn't really tell you the feeling of being strung out or the feeling of being pushed to the limit, but with that simple image, he conjures that exact feeling. It's open to interpretation, and he's not telling the listener anything directly, and I love that throughout this entire song, really. The guitar kind of reminds me of the same guitar from Needle in the Hay. I don't know if that's a coincidence or just similar chords, similar strumming. The strumming pattern seems to be quite similar. I feel like he's doing that on purpose to kind of echo that song and, bring back these characters yet again. The lyrics are just damn near perfect. You see my smile and you think that it's a frown turned upside down. How is he really feeling? Well, people think that he's suffering inside while he's smiling. Is that really true? Again, it's open to your interpretation. While all the fools tell him what he should or shouldn't do. I also kind of wonder if this song is written from the perspective of the idiot kid who wants those things you would never allow. This might be the idiot kid's song. I also like the subconscious link between saint and heaven, Christian brothers, and he's playing with some of that religious imagery very subtly, but it's linking all of those together too. All right, track 10, Good to Go. A very underrated Elliott Smith song. This guitar line haunts me. It's so beautiful. The vocal melody is so haunting as well. A low-riding junkie girl. A low-riding junkie girl. This song might be the bridge between Southern Belle and Alphabet Town, if you think about it. Maybe Constantina was the low-riding junkie girl who came down south, and now these are the things of hers that you left lying around. And it's that final line, I'm waiting for something that's not coming. That also echoes, Single File and the Idiot Kid. When he sees him, all he sees is you're waiting for something. Also, like needing a hero goes back to the theme of dependency, which runs through the album. Even like Needle in the Hay, where you're wearing his clothes, a reaction to you. You're a zero, but you need a hero. You need to be like other people. You can't be yourself. Track 11, The White Lady Loves You More. AKA, I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. This is the most explicit song about heroin on this album. White Lady, of course, I thought was cocaine, but I suppose it could be China White. The works for heroin are stashed somewhere, but he doesn't know where they are, but that's where you'll go tonight. You just want her to do anything to you. There ain't nothing you won't allow. Again, the dependency and the permission seems to echo St. Ides Heaven. And also the dream you won't remember flashing on like a cop's light kind of throws back to Christian brothers. In fact, this song is kind of like the culmination of all of the drug songs that have come before. I feel like White Lady Loves You More and The Biggest Lie are like the culmination of like, this is like all of the drugs and the darkness coming into this, who is the White Lady? The White Lady is the angel of death, or the absolute bottoming out. And then The Biggest Lie, which is the next track, is kind of the relationships completely shattering. I think about the song because it's just so achingly beautiful. And Elliott Smith actually learned how to play cello just to play on this song. He doesn't play it perfectly, but he does a pretty damn good job. I feel like this song could have been like the final track on the album. It has that kind of finality to it. And maybe it would have been, but he kind of puts The Biggest Lie as almost like an epilogue. Track 12, The Biggest Lie. You're waiting for the train, the subway that only goes one way. Mark Lanigan, One Way Street. The Biggest Lie is a hard song to talk about because it's like one of the most loved songs of the Elliott Smith catalog. And I don't really have anything to say about it that someone hasn't already said before, probably many times over. All I want to say about The Biggest Lie is that this song never ceases to give me chills. The way his voice quivers, the fact that his voice is not double-tracked, it's just single-tracked, and it's so clear. Like his voice is really kind of up in the mix. It's really forward. You can hear his voice so intimately, and it just adds to the spookiness and the unsettling. The simple vocal melody, the simple guitar melody, lyrics that can be interpreted in 100 different ways. The breaking of the relationship. You spent everything you had. Is it all of your energy? Is it all of your money? He has a crushed credit card. Maybe he was trying to support her. But, they're at the absolute impasse now. And he tells the biggest lie, the ultimate regretful words. Everything you do makes me want to die. I like the fact that this song doesn't really have a chorus at all. It just kind of, it has again that should I say quiet catharsis, or it has that catharsis that just really lingers with you long after the record's over. Such a powerful song to end on. I feel like there's a reason why on Either Or he ended with Say Yes, because this is just such a kind of a hopeless, like absolute bottoming out to end a record on. But it's an incredible song. Elliott Smith, just a master songwriter, one of the greatest, probably the greatest of that generation. Yeah. All right, I hope you've enjoyed my quiet, late-night, depressing little video about Elliott Smith's self-titled record. This is an album that I have spent more time with than probably any other record, that at least among the ones that came out in 1995. I've absolutely loved this record for many, many years. I first heard this when I was a teen, and I rediscovered it later when I was in university, and I was working at a small restaurant, and I would get off work at like 1 a.m. or midnight, and I would walk through the streets of the town, and I would always listen to this record, and yeah, it's very important to me. It's very important to a lot of people, and I'd really like to know what you think of it. So please let me know, and I'll see you again. Thanks for watching.